Hey, what's happening, guys? Dan Dario here with another Options and Play video update. Today, I'm going to talk about just something that I've been noticing. Uh, just trading on a day-to-day basis, like interacting with the VTF. Um, what I've been seeing, and I guess like what we've been kind of like discussing, just like the last like week, kind of coinciding with the market bouncing, right? Is um, chasing or buying breakouts. All right. Now, uh, 2 months ago, that strategy was great. I mean, basically, 80, 75, 80% of our trades revolved around buying breakouts, bullish trend continuations, bullish reversals, right? But we're not in that type of tape anymore. So right now, um, buying breakouts is really like a tough strategy, right? I mean, there are instances where breakouts have been working, but it's kind of like a specific group, right? Which I'm just going to go over like in a second, right? So I've talked about Apple a lot recently, using it as an example, like going over a bunch of different strategies, right? But it actually kind of highlights what I'm talking about. You can see that Apple had a pretty nice setup, right? And yesterday morning, it triggered a breakout through the 20-day and through like recent resistance. Right now, in a bullish, trending, strong tape, that might have been a pattern that worked. Stock built on it and moved higher into the gap. Right, like maybe if that was like in January, or December, even like November of last year, like that seems to be a pattern that probably would have worked to the upside. But what you're noticing is that it fails and breaks down, right? So really sharp reversal breakdown. It's because it's not a tape where you really want to be buying breakouts. Um, the types of names. So I mean, it's not just that. I mean, it's like there's other names like Nvidia, right? So another name where had like a nice little bull setup, triggered a breakout yesterday, rolled over and failed, right? So it was hanging above the 50, broke out, rolled over and failed, right? So it's not just Apple; it's other names too. So if I'm looking at breakouts, I mean, they obviously are, there's certain areas that are still working. What I find is the ones that you're seeing better follow through are kind of the story stocks now, right? So the names that are benefiting from the quarantine or perceived beneficiaries, right? So stocks that people like expect to perform well, right? Because like in some instances you haven't really gotten like firm numbers, right? So it's like the zooms, right? Zoom, breakout, and continuation, right? So like that type of name. DocuSign was one, kind of ran away from us this week before we were able to get involved. But the reason I was looking at it is because it had a really nice breakout setup, right? So I had a breakout, continuation to the high, right? Or even like gaming stocks, kind of like a similar idea. Like they're setting up for like a breakout, starting to make like a little bit of like a push up into like some resistance, right? Now this would be a group that I'd be looking at for kind of a sustained breakout, right? Because people staying at home, playing more video games, etc., right? So, like these are the types of names that I'd be focused on if I'm looking at breakouts through some moving average resistance. These would be the names that I'd have a little bit more confidence in. The ones that have story driving it higher versus just like straight technicals. Um, Now, that doesn't mean I'm not going long in certain instances, and what I am looking at for like longs or bull setups or bull strategies, right? For options are more like stocks that have dropped into like longer term support. Okay, so like a recent one was like a Bristol Myers trade, right? And the reason that was interesting to me is because it dropped into like a long term level of support, right? Down in like the 50 to high 40s, right? So like that's different than buying a breakout. Going long against multi-year support is different than buying like a breakout through moving average resistance, right? Or Intel when it rolled over, right? Intel dropped into like the 200 week moving average, which had been like a key area of support over the last few years, right? So bull strategies, it's still worth looking at names, but you kind of have to like shift the style of trade you're targeting, right? So instead of like buying breakouts on names that may have worked 2, 3, 4 months ago, now what's working is story stocks. So those things benefiting from the quarantine, or stocks that are maybe rolling over and getting into like multi-year or multi-month, multi-year support ranges. Okay, so that's kind of, I know it might seem kind of like an obvious, say like, but it's also just worth kind of like driving home the point, right? Because we had a pretty nice bounce the last week and a half, and then people are kind of reverting back to that, like chasing breakouts, chasing those names, some Momo names through like moving average resistance, and it's just not that type of environment. It's not that type of tape that's really rewarding those setups. So just you got to be careful. Stick with the plan that's working, and again, I mean that stocks into like key longer term levels, monthly, yearly, and also like some of like the new story stocks, right? So like the Zooms and the Teladocs and like the Slacks, and then maybe even some of like the retail names that are benefiting from this too. All right. So if you like these videos and you're looking for more option trade ideas or more information on options education, please follow up with the link in the description of the video for more information on options in play. All right. Have a safe, healthy night. We're going to get through this together. Um, and I will talk to you all tomorrow.